Somebody once said that, there's no trophy for working harder than everybody else. Like nobody cares,
I don't. And
You shouldn't be proud of that. You shouldn't be proud that
you know.
you put in 70 hours a week last week. I put in 70 hours a week. It's like, so what, man?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind Their Success podcast. I'm Peyton Squires, the host, and this morning we have on Adam Kusch. He is the president of Libertas Wealth Management Group. Adam's journey began just a few days in the industry before September 11th, and his career spanned 4 major market crashes. With top industry credentials and national recognition, he's built a reputation for ethical, client-focused financial planning. Adam, good morning. Welcome on Behind Their Success.
Good morning. Thanks, Peyton. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. So tell us, just like high level, who's Adam?
Oh, wow. Who is Adam? I'm trying to think of what will my kids say, or what my wife say. I would say I'm, oh, wow. That's a good question. You're going to come right out of the gate with a tough one.
Well, you can give us career and stuff right now. We can get a little deeper.
Yeah. I mean, when you think, well, honestly, I was at speaking at a conference last week or 2 weeks ago. And when I was there, I sat in on some sessions. And one of the things that somebody was talking about was not being the business owner. Like when somebody says who you are, to not respond saying, well, I own a financial advisory firm. I do, I'm an exit planner. I help companies grow and sell. It's like who you are shouldn't be your business. So I guess as soon as you asked that question, I immediately was like, man, I should probably answer about really who I am. I'm a proud husband married 22 years next month. I've got 2 boys that are 15 and 12 that I love to death, and they're awesome kids and very well behaved. And I'm proud that they're grown up to be so responsible. I'm somebody who doesn't require a lot of sleep. We were talking about that offline. I mean, I haven't worked in 24 years. I think I got very, very fortunate and found a career that I love. And every morning I wake up and I attack the day excited about saving people from bad advice and bad advisors. So I think that's probably who I am. I am. You mentioned ethics. I have a passion for a moral compass, and it's gotten me in trouble, believe it or not, a couple times.
I bet so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, I mean, I started my company when I was 25 years old. My career started at a national brokerage firm, like you said, 10 days before the World Trade Center went down. And when I started my company at 25, just to get out of the rigmarole of commissions and lack of fiduciary responsibility. My dad told me I said, what should I do? If you were me, what would you do to build up a business as successful as yours? Because he was an optometrist, had his own practice. Mm-hmm. And he just said, pretend like everything you do is tomorrow's front page and the rest will take care of itself. So that's kind of how I've built everything over the years. So, I mean, yeah, I own a wealth management firm. Yes, we help people get and stay retired. Yes, we do exit planning and business transition planning and help people grow and sell their companies so they can make work optional, have more work-life balance, more profitability. I help other advisors grow what I grew, but at the end of the day, it's really, I think really it's about who we are that makes us different as a person and what we build in our culture inside our companies, honestly.
Oh yeah, for sure. And, I love that, I was joking around with you. We're like, oh, who am I? That's a hard question. And yeah, that's, it's totally true, right? Like, you certainly don't want your identity wrapped up around and really anything, externally, right?
Hard though. I mean, it's hard. It's kind of like when you come home and, my wife and I went out, impromptu. Hey, let's, did you eat dinner yet? It's like, 8:30, 9 o'clock. No, I haven't had dinner yet. It's like, let's go grab something to eat. What do you want? I'm like, I don't care. I want wings every day. Like I could eat wings twice a day, every day.
Mine's pizza.
Pizza? Oh my God. See, I wish I could eat pizza, but I just gained weight. Yeah. But so we like, let's go get wings, and we sit down and we get a drink and we wait for our food, and all she has to talk about is the kids and PTO, and all I have to talk about is work, right?
Right. I've been at that dinner before.
I feel like you have.
Yeah. That's interesting. And it's, can you speak to that a little bit? Kind of speak to that, the importance of, you talked about helping entrepreneurs with work-life balance, and just talk about that, what intentions you set around that, especially with your kids and your wife, and just speak to that a little bit.
Sure. That's tough. I mean, that's honestly, there's so much we could talk about today. We could do like a part 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. We start getting into this stuff, but I grew up with a dad who, like I said, owned his own optometry practice, and he didn't make it to most of my tennis matches, and
Mhm.
football games. He would show up in his work gear, and I'd see him up in the stands when I was at football games. But he worked Saturday mornings too. He was in the exchange club, Rotary Club. He was president of the stool board. He was doing all the things that we do to network and build a business and meet people. And I remember growing up thinking, he did a great job as a dad. He's my idol to this day. He's the person I want to be like. And he's 73, I think, in a couple weeks. But I had apparently that entrepreneurial bug that he did, and I just have a hard time turning it off. I have an obsession for building things and growing things. I have an obsession for finishing things. I can't like last night I was telling you that I was up working till 2.
Yeah.
It's not like I need to work. I just can't stop. I get started. I can't quit. So early in my career, when I realized I was going to have the same problem, and I think I'm actually worse than him. And in fact, if he were sitting right here, he would say, really, if there's even a question, yes, you're worse. So I started doing things with my calendar. So like, for instance, on Mondays, I don't have any client meetings at all. It's all staff meeting, prep time, get ready for the week. Today, as you can see, we don't have any client meetings today. I've got a bunch of podcasts to do. I've got some, strategy work to do on the businesses. So we show up, everybody here, when there's no clients, we show up in hoodie and sweatpants. And we live in Ohio, so it could be 90 and it could be 50. You just don't know. So, and then Fridays, years ago, I started taking Fridays off in the summer. And when I say Fridays off with quotes, air quotes, it's because, if my wife's still sleeping, then I get the kids on the bus and I just get some work done while I wait. And if it's summertime and the kids are up, I try to just hang out with them until she's up. But, sometimes there's nothing to do and I might get some work done. Other times it's, we're hanging out, we're going to play a round of golf. She likes golf more than I do. I'm a little antsy, but
you can't sit still that long, can you?
Yeah. But I like it. I like long drives in golf because it makes me turn off, and it kind of forces me to turn off. But I think that the way I've done it over the years to force myself into some semblance of work-life balance, which I don't believe actually exists, is to block that time off on the calendar and treat it like an appointment. We should treat our appointments with our family and the things we do for ourselves just as important as a client meeting or a patient meeting if you're a doctor, let's just say. So it's been a few years. Well, yeah, it's been a few years now, but I take every Friday off now. So I do put a ton of hours in, but it's usually a lot of hours between Monday and Thursday, some late evenings, sometimes early in the mornings on the weekends if I need to catch up. Then it's just trying to be intentional about it and trying to just remind myself. I've got this picture on the wall over here, and when my kids were little, and it's a poem my wife bought for me, and their footprints are on it, when they're really little kids. And every time I have it right by my door when I leave, because when I leave the office throughout the day, it's just a reminder that this is way more important than this obsession that I have with getting things done.
Yeah. And I assume, and I'm making an assumption here, or maybe I should just ask, is like, it wasn't like that in the beginning of your career, right? Did it take you a while to learn those lessons?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, well, first of all, I was broke. I had no appointments and no clients early in my career, so I had no shortage of time. I spent a lot of time grinding it out, starting things up. I mean, I was 21. I've said this so many times I can say it quickly. I mentioned starting 10 days before the World Trade Center, but what I didn't mention was I was right out of college. I was 21 years old. I was going door to door, business to business to find clients into the winter time in Ohio, trying to get people 3 times my age to trust me with their life savings while the market was seriously falling.
Yeah, while the world was going to war and
yeah, well, no big deal, no big deal. I mean, who's going to trust this young green ginger, right? Going door to door. But anyway, so I think early on, I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. I was just working as hard as I could. And back then, it's funny, I put more hours in now than I did back then. But it's like you go through the roller coaster, you start getting successful, and then you get so excited about the success. That's where you lose yourself and you lose that time. And you have those conversations with your spouse, and you realize you're losing time with the kids. You realize you promised yourself and your family that, hey, I'm not going to, by the time my kids are 5 and I can coach their sports, I'm going to coach all their sports. Then you realize they're 10 and you're like, wait a minute, I haven't done that yet. And it's crazy. It just goes by fast.
Yeah. And, you're obviously making me think about my life. I got, 3 young kids. They're 9, 7, and 5 right now. And
There we go.
that is very on the forefront for me. And, swinging back to like the work-life balance thing. Yeah, I don't really like that term. I don't use that term. It's about setting intentionalities in all areas of your life, right? It's like, what do I want my days to look like? What do I want? Let's set these priorities and then just design the schedule, right? That aligns with whatever you say your priorities are. And that way you can be intentional about everything. And it's not this like tug and pull of like, well, if I'm at work, I'm letting my family down, or if I'm with my family, I'm letting my business down. If you really design that intentionally, I think that also lets you out of some of that guilt, I think, that some people may have, right?
I think what you just said is exactly how people feel, though. I know that's how I feel. I feel like when I'm at work, I'm letting my family down. When I'm at, with my family, I'm not doing work. When I feel like my staff needs me, I feel like my clients need me. So you feel like you're pulled in 5 different directions. But yeah, I mean, another thing I've heard over the years that I thought was really impactful was, somebody once said that, there's no trophy for working harder than everybody else. Like nobody cares, You shouldn't be proud of that. You shouldn't be proud that you put in 70 hours a week last week. I put in 70 hours a week. It's like, so what, man? It's like you worked harder than everybody else. I think that where I'm trying to get, because I'm doing way too many things right now, too many companies, all that stuff. Yeah. I'm trying to get to a point where I don't know if you didn't know Dan Sullivan's Who Not How.
Well, I have read, just side note before you go into that. I have committed this year to just study him and Ben Hardy's work. So I've read that book probably 3 times already. Sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Who Not How, 10X is easier than 2X, Gap in the Game.
Yeah, Gap in the Game. Yep.
4 C's.
Amazing entrepreneur content. I mean, just amazing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. He is incredible. Yeah. So I that's what I'm trying to do. So I was talking to a business consultant that I have on retainer the other day, and she's like, "What's your goal?" And I'm like, honestly, if I could work 40 to 50 hours a week, that'd be awesome. I think most people would hear that and they think, "What's
the matter with you?"
Right. But honestly, that's the life of an entrepreneur. I mean, I mean, is it challenging? Yeah, because if it wasn't challenging, it'd be boring, right? And that's another problem. That's another discussion for another day. But it's like, it's fun. I mean, I do enjoy it.
Once again, it's just the intentionality. You talk about like taking Fridays off, or like people are like, "Oh man, I'd love to take Friday off." Well, you know what? Take it off your calendar, right? And fit everything else in the other days, if that's so much of a priority to you. Like, you have control of that. And you talk about like, "Oh, I don't take meetings on Mondays." I don't either, right? All my stuff on Mondays is internal. It's podcast stuff. It's team stuff. It's making sure I'm ready for the next 3 days, because I usually stack the middle of the week, where it's just like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I just kind of get my butt kicked. And then Friday, I kind of, that's kind of recovery. And, and that's my cycle that I've kind of designed that works for me, right? And works for my business. And of course it can get better, but like, it's just being a little intentional around it, right?
Yeah. I mean, 2 things before we close up this topic. The first is 2 years ago, I was planning my next year like I do every year in December. And it just kind of hit me that at that point, 22 years, I'm like, for 22 years, I've been doing evening appointments 1 day a week. And usually it's on Tuesdays or Thursdays. And whoever picks the first late appointment, that becomes the late evening. And
you could fill that one up and block it.
Yep. Just block it off, right? 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, get home, whatever. And it was just spur of the moment. I just decided, you know what? I've been doing this too long. My family would love to have me home more. I'm busy enough as it is. So I just, on a whim, just decided to stop doing it. And I called one of my friends in Philadelphia who also owns, a financial advisory firm. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm doing this. You think I'm crazy?" And he says, "No." He's like, "If anybody has a problem with it, it's an inconvenience to them once a year, but it's an inconvenience to you 52 times a year."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good quote. And then to your point about packing up Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I wouldn't say packing that up and I know you weren't saying this either, but I would say to the audience and people listening and watching that that's what you want to do. We call them RPMs here, rapid power meetings. We do all of our annual review meetings with clients between January and March. Then we do semi-annuals between March and May and September and October. And that leaves time in the summer to relax a little bit more. Things are a little slower. And it leaves time in the wintertime to actually spend time with the family for the holidays. You're not slammed during the holidays. And of course, new clients are coming on board all the time. So it's not like you're not doing anything. But
for sure.
But yeah, I think that works really well for us.
Yeah. And it's just, every industry is different, whatnot. You have different work flows, and it's just finding a rhythm. You kind of talked about turning off, right? Earlier, you made the statement about turning off, or it helps you to long drives help you turn off. I'm just guessing. I've only known you for 35 minutes, but I'm guessing that's a real struggle for you. And it is for, most of us. It definitely is for me,
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that a little bit, maybe some of the things you found. For me, it's like sauna helps me do that a lot. Massages, weirdly enough, to where I can shut my brain off. And that's something I've been very intentional about, doing quiet time and things. And recently of just thinking time and quiet time in myself. Speak to that a little bit. What has your struggle been in that? And what are some of the tactics maybe, that you've used or others could use?
I do struggle with that. The day-to-day turning off is extremely difficult for me, especially when I'm really behind. I have a hard time. My wife can tell when I'm, not all there, and and it's not even that I'm consciously thinking about something else I need to do. I'm just, I don't know. I can't. I mean, it's almost like I'm still in fifth gear. Like I can't downshift. So I think that, and I don't have a long enough commute. My commute is 15 minutes. So that's not really a lot of time to decompress. And oftentimes it's that last call that I didn't have time to make during the day. So I jump on the phone on the way home. Yeah. And the 15-minute drive isn't long enough to finish the call. So you're sitting in the driveway trying to wrap it up. One of the things somebody taught me probably in the late 2000s was the 7-second rule, I think is what he called it. It might have been something longer than that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a certain amount of seconds, and choose your seconds. When you come in the door at home, to put everything down, and the first thing you do is you give your spouse a kiss, a hug, you give your kids a hug, and you hang out and talk to them before you do anything, before you go up and change, before anything else. I know a lot of people work from home these days, but to draw a line and have that division between work and home life, that's helped for me to kind of have that in my head, that's kind of like the switch, so to speak. But I have another problem, which is once I do turn off, so let's just say for vacations, when we go on trips, once I turn off, I have a really hard time turning back on.
Really? Interesting.
I think it's the extremist personality.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, my wife bought me these cufflinks. Not that I wear suits anymore, but one says on and one says off, and that's kind of me in a nutshell. So, yeah.
It's something I've been trying to be intentional about for sure, especially young family, right, and very appreciable ages. Is like just. When I show up at home, my kids, they're excited to see me. So they expect me to be there, right? Like I walk through the door, but if I'm not, I'm there, but I'm not really there. I mean, it's obvious to everybody in the house and obvious to me.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
You just don't want to string too many days in a row.
Yeah. I think you got to try and wrap up, try to do your best to have some cushion time at the end of the day to make sure you don't go home like you're always behind. Yeah. I think we're always behind, right? But
at least we think we are,
right.
us super anxious achieving entrepreneurs. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's like I feel like you have to distinguish between what are you behind on that's important and what are you behind on that's crucial. And it's the crucial things you need to do, like what needs to be done by today before you leave and what needs to be done by the end of the week and, by the end of the month, and then you just go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's prioritizing and trying to organize to just release some of that anxiety.
Yeah.
Adam, obviously you're a very, very accomplished guy. You got a whole lot of letters behind you.
That's just because of my insecurity with my intelligence.
Yeah, maybe that's me too. When just talking, entrepreneurs in general, right? You're very much in the wealth and tax base, similar to me. What's just some general advice for entrepreneurs, people trying to build a business, maybe exit a business, like, finance, right? Obviously a huge part of a business. One of the major pillars of a business is, finance. Speak to like the importance of that, or just maybe some general advice for entrepreneurs, or you see problems in that area.
I think the first thing is probably to figure out what you want and who you are. Some businesses want to build a lifestyle business. Mm-hmm. So I think there's two kinds. There's people who want to build a lifestyle business that's going to give you the money that you need to do the things you want at home with your family, save enough money to quit one day and make work optional. And you may or may not sell your company. It may dissolve. And if you do sell it, it's probably not going to be for some huge nest egg. The other type of owner is the owner that wants to turn their business into an investment, that wants to actually sell it someday for something substantial. And obviously the word substantial means something different to everyone, but it doesn't matter if you're selling it for 2 million or 20 million. I think that's all substantial. Yep. So it's all relative, right? So I think that, if you're the lifestyle business, I'm going to kind of spend less time, I guess, talking about the lifestyle business and more time talking about the companies that are in that, $500,000 to $1 million range that are trying to get up to that $1 to $2 million range, and then the companies that 1 to 2 that are trying to break that ceiling of 1.5 to 2 that just, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's the scaling point, and get up to that $3, $4, $5 million range. And I think you have to spend time working on the business. And I'm going to stop real quick because I don't want to sound like a cliche, because that's exactly what that just sounds.
Oh yeah. Everybody's heard that.
You have, in my opinion, you have to hire a good CPA that understands business. And then I think you need to hire a good fractional CFO. Businesses between 1 and 10 million don't typically have 1 and 20 million don't typically have the space or the revenue to pay a full-time CFO, nor do they have the work for a full-time CFO.
But they need it. Like, they need that expertise for sure.
You've got to start treating the business like an investment and stop treating it like you want to spend everything you have and get your profit to zero. I think that to a certain point, it's okay to do that early in your career. As you grow the business, there's nothing wrong with paying more taxes. Of course, we want to pay as little tax as possible. I always say there's nothing wrong with avoiding taxes. We just can't evade them.
Yeah, don't use that evade word.
But I think that at some point, when you feel like you've gotten stuck, that's when it's time to reach out and hire somebody who's an expert in business transition planning. And I purposely don't use the phrase exit planning, because when you tell a successful business owner who's growing a great company in their 30s, hey, we do exit planning, they're like, well, that's not for me because I'm not selling anytime soon. So I call it business transition planning, or business transition and exit planning, because what we want to do is we want to transition you from wherever you are today to where you want to be. And what most owners want, whether they know it or not, is they want to spend less time in the business. They don't want to be so dependent upon them. We want to get their risk down. So, like, for instance, customer concentration, the amount of the business, whether it's staff, customers, clients that rely on the owner. We want to get continuity in place. So if something were to happen to the owner, that there's something in place to keep the business alive. There's sales training. There's profitability measures from an absolute basis. There are intangibles from a risk standpoint we can do to increase the multiple on the coming, having nothing to do with profit and absolute value. And what ends up happening when you're a 35 or a 40-year-old or a 45-year-old, doesn't really matter. If you're not even close to selling, what ends up happening is you end up finding yourself spending less time in the business, more time with your family, with that work-life balance thing we were just talking about, staff that are happier because you've let go of a lot of things, you've given them more responsibility, you're trusting them. Let's go back to who, not how again, right? Yep. They're more excited. They see your vision. I always say that in our office, I don't like to say that I'm the shark and we've got all these minnows working with me. I say we're all piranhas. Nobody works well with sharks. So, you want to turn your company into a bunch of piranhas swimming in the same direction, killing the meat and taking it home. And I think that, so the advice I would give owners is not to work on the business from a cliche standpoint, but specifically to make sure you're working with a good CPA. Make sure if you're in that 1 million and up range, you should be looking at hiring a fractional CFO. And then I would get your hands on somebody who understands value acceleration, somebody like a certified exit planning advisor, something like that.
I talk to a lot of different entrepreneurs, and we talk about they're building their business, building it to sell someday. And it's amazing enough. It's like when people are going through that process of like, okay, I got this crappy business, I'm going to fix all these things to sell it. Okay, you put in those years and years of hard work to get it to that point, and then you realize, wait, I got actually a really good asset here. Maybe I do want to sell it, right? And I don't think entrepreneurs and people think about that. It's like, okay, if your big goal is to sell this business someday, well, you're going to have to take that capital, and guess what? You're going to have to buy some other type of asset with it. So you're really just exchanging one asset for another. And maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you don't. But like either way, if you can get the business fixed and you can truly become an owner, like a shareholder, right? Like a public company shareholder and not the operator, or really not taking any time there. Well, maybe you'll never actually want to sell.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that the statistics are that 80% of business owners' net worth is in their company.
Yeah.
And then the other 80% stat is that 80% of businesses don't sell, they dissolve. So only 20% of businesses sell, and 75% of the 20% sell for less than market value. So yes, once the owner finally realizes like not this is I think most owners know they have an asset. I don't think that they know if they can sell it or not, and then they definitely don't know what it's worth, and oftentimes they overvalue it, and then what that does is it kind of gives them a bad or at least a misled trajectory on when they can retire. So you end up again because lack of planning, right? Because of lack of planning, getting the right things in place, de-risking, all the things that you need to do to make it attractive to a buyer. All those things need to happen first, and it takes, in my opinion, 3 years. So I think that you need to have a 3-year runway if you're looking to sell, to get this thing ready to sell, so it's worth something. So that, let's just say when you're doing your retirement plan with you and your spouse, if you're an owner, the business needs to be part of the retirement plan, and we need to know what's the business need to sell for in order for us to ride off into the sunset. And then we got to figure out, well, how do we make the business worth that much, whatever that needs to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of think of it as the analogy of like, right, when you're selling your house, you kind of don't do any of the home improvement projects. And then finally, when you decide you're going to sell it, you fix it all up, and then you realize, oh, this is a really nice house. Why would that's just so typical.
I've used that same exact analogy. Yeah. And that's why, I guess, to that point, that's why people shouldn't wait till they're ready to retire.
Yeah, it's just start working on it. It's just like give into excellence and start working on it.
Yeah, do it now. Do the planning now. And what's going to happen is there's going to be less risk in your business, more continuity. You're going to make more money. You're going to have more free time. And by the way, you're exponentially going to be worth more when the time comes to sell later, because you did the planning now and you didn't wait until 3 years before retirement. And you probably heard of all the D's, right? Divorce, disability, disease, disagreements with partners. These are the things that happen that cause businesses to dissolve. How many times do you and I talk to business owners, and you say, hey, when are you thinking about selling? I don't know, maybe 3 years. You talk to them in 2 years. Hey, when are you thinking about selling? Maybe 2 years. I mean, like they're just waiting for the inevitable, something like dementia or Parkinson's or worse, right? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and it's not, it's either fear or just not knowing how to, to begin executing on whatever they got, or they're just in a habit and a routine, and like there's just no one ever addressing whatever problems are going on in the business but then again, like how much money are you costing yourself, right? Because, the outsider comes in and sees all these problems and is like, why the heck would I want to buy that thing?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, because that's the other big stat, is that owners who sell that are surveyed a year later, more than 75% of them surveyed say that they strongly regret selling.
Yep.
And so now everybody listening and watching is going, well, why in the world would I want to sell that? What are you guys talking about, right? Well, it's not that you shouldn't sell. It's that the people that are upset about it didn't have a plan for what they're going to do afterward, which is, to your point, Peyton, like that's why these people are afraid and they keep kicking the can down the road. It's because, like, well, what the hell am I going to do? I've been spending all my time doing this. This is back to the beginning of the show. This is who I am.
You're right. Yeah.
This is who I am. It needs to be about more than that. You need to know, like, what are you going to do when you quit working? It's like football. I always say it's like life after football. Average time in the NFL is 3.8 years, which means that by the time the average person is done playing football in the NFL professionally, they're 25 years old, 26 maybe at best.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of life left. And owners, I mean, contrary to popular belief, when your business is sold, you're not going to die. There's a lot more life left. So you have to have a plan for what you're going to do in that, first 5 years, second 5 years, the second 10 years.
Yeah, a lot of, like you said, a lot of business owners are dissatisfied. They're certainly like measurably, I don't want to say more depressed or whatever you want to call it after selling the business, because they've lost their identity. Mm-hmm. They thought you could go sit on a beach, but once you do that, especially as an entrepreneur, for like 10 days, you're like, well, this sucks. I can only drink so many Mai Tais or whatever, right?
God.
Like you think you can sit there the rest of your life. You can't. I promise you can't. So it is so important to have, like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, what's the next chapter of my life?
Right.
It's going to be specific. What do I want to dive into? Because hopefully you've built this business, you've sold this asset, now hopefully you've got the money freedom and the time freedom to really just dive into whatever lights you up, right? And that can be anything, because you have all those freedoms, right?
That's right. 100%.
Are you looking for a new tax experience? Looking for an advisor that actually brings you high-level ideas and proactively plans so you aren't overpaying your taxes? Or how about one that even just responds and communicates in a timely fashion? If any of that resonates with you, you probably just have a tax preparer and not a tax planner. And it is through the tax planning process where all the value is found. And when tax planning is done right, it has a positive return on investment. I'm Peyton Squires. I'm a CPA and owner of Squires Tax Planning. We work alongside entrepreneurs and high-income earners, helping them pay the least amount of income taxes, both legally and ethically. We have saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars through specific strategies, and we guarantee we can find multiple tax strategies that your current tax preparer hasn't told you about. If that interests you, head over to squirestaxplanning.com. There you can take our free assessment to see how likely it is that you are overpaying on your income taxes. From there, you can also book a free tax discovery call with our team to see what it would look like to have us working for you.
So Adam, what do you credit is your number one skill that has led to all of that?
Can I give you two? The first one's easy. The number one is just hard work, just relentless execution.
You bring the energy, I can tell, right?
Yeah,
I can tell you're pretty revved up. You do this, I'm sure, every day.
I get excited. I mean, this stuff, all this stuff excites me. Like success excites me. Success, change, growth, all those things really pump me up. Finding something you love, and then once you love it, you're going to be good at it. You're destined to be good at it because you like it.
And once you're good at it, you'll love it even more.
Right. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. So I think the first one's hard work, but I think equally important is resilience. There have been times in my career, I was like 7 years into my career, and I remember going home and, dropping off my laptop bag, giving my wife a kiss, and then going into my office, kind of sneaking in my office and looking for things to sell on eBay to pay the mortgage. I can't count the number of times that, we thought we were good and then something happened. Market crashes, recession, bad hire. We had a hire once that cost me $340,000 of revenue in 18 months. And while the bleeding occurred, we all thought it wasn't this person. We thought it was something else. And this person was saying it was something else. And at the end of the day, once we had to part ways, of course, we found out that, the clients that were, the few clients that were leaving still canceled their transfers, came back, and they told us what was really happening, and the person wasn't doing their job, to make a very, very long story short. So yeah, I think that hard work, and then you're going to get knocked down repeatedly if you're an entrepreneur. You just have to get used to failing, and then just fail fast and move on.
Yeah, and it's being able to lean into it, right? Like, and it's everything in life. It's such a small difference between, somebody that's reactive and proactive, or like, standing up straight or slightly leaning in, right? But when you do that, like, the difference is massive over the long time when you really compound that out, right? You're just willing to step into things, right? And then you also talk about hard work, right? And hard work is the ability to just show up, put your butt in the seat, and do the thing you said you were going to do.
Yeah. Execute.
And a lot of people, and it's a muscle, and a lot of people haven't really developed that. And that is something you do need to develop. And even just to circle back for what you said, even in the beginning of, like, the people that really pride themselves, really, take on that identity of the hard work and the hustler and the grinder and whatnot. And I used to be that so much more than I am today. I've gotten a lot wiser in the years, right? Where it's like, I work 70 hours a week, and you're like, well, congrats. Is that like, I thought the plan was worth less or whatever, right? Like, it sounds like you need to find better things to work on, right? Like, because if you're, sounds like you're kind of spinning your wheels, but like, it's so true. It's like quality over quantity. That's a big, Dan Hardy stuff. We were talking about Dan Hardy earlier. Mm-hmm. Quality over quantity. And like, once again, you can have success and it feel good at the same time. Like, it doesn't have to be this, I got to take on the whole world and punch everybody out, fight through all this stuff. It can feel good while you do it too. And that's something that I wish I would have done better over the last, say, call it decade.
For sure. Yeah.
So Adam, another thing for you. So going back, so it's September 1st, 2001, right? You're starting your career. I would have been Adam. So you're a little bit, I would have been in 8th grade.
Wow.
Because I was 8th grade in September.
Making me feel really old now.
So you can go back to that young kid, right? Doesn't know anything. And you could whisper, something in his ear right now.
Mm-hmm.
What would it be?
I would say, as soon as humanly possible, whatever it is you do each and every day, write it down, turn it into a process and a system. And if you can delegate it or automate it, than build a systems manual and automate and create systems and processes out of everything, so that you can spend all your time doing the thing that you are not only the best at, but you love doing, and not, just don't spin your wheels doing stuff you shouldn't be doing.
Can you go back to like 2014 and tell me the same thing? That'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, we started installing systems and processes in 2007. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2006. And my eyes were open to it from a company called Pareto Systems out of Canada that I hired. And I was like, whoa, this is the answer right here. Just all the things that we go to bed at night that we can't sleep because we're like, oh my God, did we forget about that? And we roll over and we grab our phone and we email ourselves to, when you systematize everything, when you have processes in place, like for instance, our client onboarding process for new clients has 67 steps and it's all automated. So everybody gets emails with each step with what they're supposed to do. Nothing gets forgotten. Everybody gets the same experience. I hate to cheapen it down this much and say it's like the McDonald's handbook, but
that's where you want to be.
You want it to be, you want the fun not to be in the excitement around forgetting something, if that's excitement.
Yeah.
You want the energy you get to be from the interactions you have with people, whether that's with your staff, with your clients, customers, and with new people. That's where you want the excitement to be. You don't want it to be with trying to keep the machine running while there's a reason we went from horses and carriages to cars, right? And you don't want to keep driving a horse and carriage if everybody around you it's successful anyway. That's scaling. And I guess maybe that's what I should say. In the beginning, I felt like I was a workaholic and I would just work harder, right?
Yeah. Same here.
Where I really started growing, and this was the first aha moment for me. When I really started growing was when I realized, and I don't like saying it, but it's true. Any successful business would tell you this is true. It's when I realized I wasn't a financial planning and wealth management firm that happened to do marketing. I'm a marketing firm that just happens to do financial planning 100%. And wealth management. It sucks to say that because it sounds like it cheapens the whole experience. But if you want to grow what I tell the advisors that I coach is that if you're a good ethical advisor, above average, and you give great advice, then you need to be telling people, because there's plenty of people out here that aren't good advisors, that don't give good advice, that care more about their own pocket than yours, than your clients. And they're doing great marketing, aren't they?
Yeah. So, and they're getting all your clients.
There we go. I say they're stealing your clients, and then they're not doing good work for them. So I don't think it's as good, honest, morally sound professionals. It's not a privilege for us to get good at marketing and growing our business. It's a responsibility.
It's a requirement in the business. We were talking about like the pillar of finance. Well, the pillar of marketing is massive in a business. And I 100% agree with you. I'm a goal guy, write down my stuff, read it every morning, that kind of stuff. And nice. Yes, in my visualization I read every morning, it says we are a sales and marketing company. and that's what we are, right? In every company is really a sales and marketing company. It doesn't really matter. But
they're around for much long, right? They won't be around very long if they're not.
Yeah, and what I would tell you, if you're a business under $1 million a year, your number one problem is no one knows who you are. Like that's your number one problem. Well, yes, you probably got operational problems and whatever, but your biggest problem is no one knows who you are.
Sure.
And getting professional in marketing and sales and stuff took me way too long to do that. Finally, really getting all those pieces together.
That's everybody.
Game changing.
And I think that's where mentorship comes in. So maybe that's another thing. It's just when you said what I've done to start over and do it better, it's like I said hard work, then I said resilience. If there was a third, it would be I've always been really, really good about seeking out mentors that whether they wanted to mentor me or not, I would keep bothering them until they listened or gave me their ear, And I think that most owners want to help other owners. Most owners will give you the shirts off their back to help. And I think the more mentors you can get and the more mistakes you can learn from before making them, I think the better off you can be.
Yeah, and I think that was probably my biggest mistake there was that I was trying to do all this in isolation and figure it out myself. And like, man, I could skip 7 years and all kinds of frustration if I would have just asked somebody. Right?
Well, it's like, it's like you're on an island and then you feel like if you ask somebody that you're letting someone else know that you're not doing well.
Yeah, I see. And that's just my insecurities, right? I mean, that's what it is.
That's
right?
Everybody. There is no business owner that just had a linear line from 0 to, 10x without any bumps in the road. I mean, that's non-existent. It's non-existent.
Yeah. Yeah, because we'll get some breakthrough, we'll grow a little bit, then we'll plateau and be like, what the heck's the problem?
Yep.
And it's like the theory of constraints, right? It's like your business will grow until it runs into a constraint. Small business, a lot of times the owner and something wrong with them and
Newton's law, right?
Yeah. And
Newton's
as soon
law.
as you fix a constraint, well, it's going to grow and then hit the next constraint, right? And you're constantly just fixing these constraints.
It sounds like you're a reader like me, even though I listen to all my books. But,
yeah, me too. I haven't really read a book in
years. I haven't read a book in years.
Yeah.
But it's the whole Jim Collins thing, right? What gets you to that first plateau, what's going to take you to the next level is not going to be the same.
Break it. Yeah, you got to break it.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the times, and that's things that I'm doing right now, it's like you got to break things, take 2 or 3 steps back so you can take, 20 steps forward, right? Because like what you built to get you here, like just can't go forward, right? The systems don't work or whatever doesn't work. You got to break it and build something new. And
that's when you get that last aha moment, which is you go from being a workaholic to realizing you're not a company, that sells widgets. You're a marketing company you're a marketing company that sells whatever your service is. You're not the service provider doing marketing. The third step is the whole scaling part. It's doing that who, not how. It's trusting other people. It's delegation. It's turning your company into an investment as opposed to working harder on your company.
I loved earlier we talked about like you don't want to over systematize, right? Like, well, I mean, yes, we want to systematize the heck out of everything. Yeah, you want everything so clean and systematized where stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. And then because of that, that allows you and your employees to be fully present and then to personalize the experience, right? Or to even maybe go over and above because there's some unique thing. But you can do that because you're fully present, because you have you got this rock solid system, and then we can be unique on top of it to give people even a better experience.
Yeah. I think you're doing it right when people are like, how are you getting all this stuff done that you're getting done? It's like, wow, okay, there we go.
Yeah, systems, baby. Adam, man, I love it. Listeners want to get to know more about you and whatnot. What's the best way they can connect with you or follow you or just get to know more about you?
Sure. LinkedIn's probably best. Just look for Adam. Last name is Koos as in Sam on LinkedIn. Our website's libertaswealth.com. And then the exit planning, business transition planning site is elevateandexit.com.
Heck yeah, man. Anything you want to leave listeners before we go?
I would just say to the people who are stuck, keep your head up, keep plowing away. Don't get discouraged. And with every one of those stumbles that, where you get knocked down and you stand up and that resilience takes hold again, you'll look back and you'll just tell stories about it, and you'll be teaching somebody else and that, needs the same help you need help right now.
Yeah, that's great stuff. You're building a muscle, right? Every time you get up, you have evidence in your past now that I am strong enough. I can do that. Just keep moving forward, man.
Well, there's 100% chance you won't succeed if you don't do anything, right?
That is correct. And you'll always have that regret.
That's right. True story.
Adam, appreciate you, man. Listeners, we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.